Welcome to another episode of PSS BizVerse. Generally, in PSS BizVerse, we work with very senior founders and leaders. Today's episode is special because our guest today is Sophia Millar, the CEO of Sonibel Instruments, a Vancouver-based startup that started with a plunge in the TiE student entrepreneur circuit last year, and they emerged on top. Sophia was ranked number 1 in Vancouver in the TiE competition. Then she proceeded to go to the TiE Global Summit, where she was globally ranked 3rd. So, as the executive director of TiE, it is a moment of great pride that I am today interviewing on this channel somebody who is a proof of concept of the TiE setup. I don't take away her glory because it is hers. She is the one who's created everything. But yes, we at TiE were a small part of this journey and we are very proud for that. And it's not just another startup. This goes to prove that when you have conviction in what you believe in, you can succeed in a field you know nothing about. She is an expert in finance and she's dealing with the world's biggest welding companies, shipbuilding, bridge building, and God knows what else. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's start this episode with Sophia Millar, the CEO of Sonibel Instruments. Hi Sophia, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Sophia, like any startup, the first question is, what is the problem that you're solving?
The problem that we're solving at large is that we cut downtime during welding. It's a very overlooked industry. Not many people are focused on it, but we're hearing so much of the consequences that welding is the foundation of. We hear about reshoring, reindustrialization, the $1.5 trillion US manufacturing backlog, the supply shortage for skilled laborers in welding. All of these things are preventing us from building the ships, bridges, buildings, all of the critical infrastructure, data centers that we need right now. It all depends on welding. So that's the problem we're solving with by tightening the feedback loop in the quality control segment of welding specifically.
That is really technical, and that is something that is needed by so many industries. People don't realize the effect. Okay, now take us back to the beginning, Sophia. When did this stop being an idea and start to become a company?
Well, it happened quite unexpectedly. I met my 2 co-founders, Human and George, in my last year of university at the University of British Columbia. They're both engineers, but I was studying finance, and we took an entrepreneurship elective class together. And it was in that class that we became friends over the year. And it was actually my co-founder, Human, who had worked at one of the biggest shipyards in Canada as a reliability engineer. And he saw the problem there. He also was very interested in welding because he hobby welds on the side for fun, building side projects. So that's where it started, and we ended up interviewing welders, shop owners, quality control managers, cold calling them at 5 a.m., and really fell in love with the problem.
Wow. So, when did you get the confidence that a group of students can really make this into a multi-million-dollar venture?
I think it was when we were doing a cold call interview. We were driving around, visiting shops and asking them how they saw the problem of quality control, if there even was one. And we went into this one shop. We were talking to the QC manager, and he outlined the exact product that we have today before we told him anything about it. He said, the best thing that you could build would be exactly what we're building now. And that was really inspirational for us. We had been thinking about it privately, but someone, our customer, came to us with the desire.
Wow, that is, I think, the soul of a startup, getting your customer to define a problem for you that you wish to solve. Mm-hmm. So, for the business audience, can you explain the Sonibel model to our audience in simple terms?
Well, when you're welding, currently, you do all your welds, and then a mandatory third-party inspector comes and checks them all. Around 10% of welds usually fail that inspection. That's when the economic failure starts, the back and forth, because you need to schedule your busy welder to come back and fix it, and then schedule your busy inspector to come back and inspect it. That back and forth can eat 30% of a project budget and 2 months on a year-long timeline, which can be 6 figures of savings often.
My next question, Sophia, is what makes your process unique? Why is it different from somebody to come up with a Me Too product tomorrow?
Well, we are, at Sonibel Instruments, we're building the only complete real-time weld defect detection system for semi-automatic arc welding. And I know that sounds like technical jargon, but it's the closest solution is one that catches only a few defects. It's not, they never took off, even though they were built by some of the biggest brands in welding. Our solution is the only holistic quality control solution for human welders.
Wow. So now this is very technical. Most of the investors would not understand the physics of welding. I also don't. So when you go to a potential investor, how do you explain yourself?
Well, this is something that we had to practice as well, because now we've gotten so educated about the technicals of welding that we get excited when we hear all that jargon, right? But we also need to practice that when we're talking to our customers. But it's exactly as you say, with the investors, we need to split it and talk much more about the high-level economic output that we're building. For investors, they get much more interested in the long-term vision of Sonibel Instruments, the customers that we're having inbound. Some of the biggest manufacturers in the world are cold emailing us and asking to use the product. And so that's what they care a lot more about than the specific details of the welding.
That is really nice. So, congratulations, Sophia. You've just had a round of funding where you got about $1.6 million. So, what was the milestone like? What was the validation like?
Thank you. Yes, it was super exciting for us to get that. We had to learn a lot about the fundraising process in order to get to that milestone. Mm-hmm. We had been talking to investors sort of on and off for the few months before that, but it was actually when I put my head down and started fundraising specifically. It took 2 weeks from meeting our lead investor to closing the entire round. And we were our lead investor's fastest check that he ever wrote.
Wow, that is really inspirational. So, what is it that you think clinched the deal? Was it your storytelling? Was it your value proposition? Or how did you win investor trust?
Well, we had to find investors who cared about the problem that we were solving in some capacity before we met them. Our lead investor, I remember, I joined the call, and I think before I said anything, he talked about how he was super into shipbuilding, and he told this personal story about why, and that really set the tone for a great call. Versus some of the investors that we spoke to who didn't end up coming into the round, we'd come in, tell them about the problem from a high level, and they didn't even know what welding was. So that's really too big of a gap for us to fill. They end up feeling like they don't know enough to invest, even after many meetings. Whereas the ones who did invest, they had enough background knowledge to invest after 2 meetings, 2 or 3.
Perfect. We are a business channel, so we ask business questions. Now that you have the capital, what are you going to do with it? Is it going to be invested in the product? Are you going to go after the talent? Market expansion? What?
Well, one of the biggest uses of the funding that we have right now is going to be put towards unbottlenecking our sales process. That's our biggest challenge at the moment. We have pretty good demand. We're getting inbounds from these huge players in the market, Caterpillar, Komatsu, things like that. Very exciting. But we can't serve them all at once because our tech, the data acquisition that powers our product, it's a great moat, but it's also a challenge to scaling at the beginning. So a lot of that funding is going to be put towards unbottlenecking our sales process by collecting data that supplements the data we're getting from customers so we can reach more of our wait list.
Okay. So since we are both connected to TiE, I'm coming back to TiE. So you started with the TiE Student Entrepreneur Platform as a student pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you were there and it was a very interesting pitch. So what was your experience with TiE at the early stage?
It was great. It was such a good organization to be involved in. Right when I finished school, before I had committed full-time to Sonibel Instruments, we attended the TiECon in San Francisco. And that was a great kind of introduction to the community. After that, of course, we participated in the TiE University pitch competition in Vancouver, and we won that, which was very exciting. And then we participated in the global finals, and we got third, and the prize funding for winning third place, even though it was relatively small, was a huge help for us at the beginning. We were completely bootstrapped, paying for everything, building the product, traveling to demos, taking our customers out to dinner. So it was a huge help at the beginning, and the community as well has been great.
So now that you are looking back in hindsight, what do you think was the value add of TiE that you did not get from other platforms?
TiE is, I think, the most communicative of all of the organizations that I've seen. There are so many people working in TiE who feel personally responsible for every event that is put on and every initiative that is started. And I think that leads to a great amount of accountability and pride for everything that happens in the TiE organization. And you don't see that in every community.
Thank you, Sophia. So, Sophia, when you won that global event, you were ranked second runner-up. And how did it feel? Did it feel like a dream come true? Did it feel like a validation of your conviction? How did it feel like?
I think it was a great sort of push forward at a time in need when we were bootstrapped, paying for everything ourselves, and taking the time to formulate that pitch and attend the different events leading up to the pitch. Sacrificing that time and effort to get there was well worth it in the end. We were very busy at the time, and it was a true decision to move forward, and I'm glad we chose to.
Thank you. Now, Sophia, you are one of the youngest, if not the youngest CEO that I am interviewing on my channel. So there is an image of CEOs on social media. Give us behind the scenes. What is the hardest part of being a CEO that the social media doesn't show you?
Well, a lot of the investors that didn't end up coming on to our round actually had the concern of just that the whole team was young, myself and my co-founders. And especially because we're entering a traditional industry, they thought that it would be very difficult for us to be trusted by our customers. And at the beginning we were concerned about this, but I actually find that it's quite the opposite. We go in and they're happy to help us. We're younger. They consider that we're starting our careers. Especially most of the people we're selling to are engineers, and my two co-founders are young engineers, and I think they see themselves in them. I think they're happy to help us because we're young and we're excited. We have more energy and we're open to learning. We say that we don't know whatever, it's fine. There's much less competition because we're not the same age as them.
No, this doesn't answer my question. I'm going to come back to you.
Yes, okay.
Dispel the myth. You are a CEO. You have raised over $1.5 million. So there is a dashing image of CEOs that it is all formal suits and power plays. For a younger audience who are inspiring to be CEOs, tell them something they don't see on social media.
No, it's very difficult to do everything that you need to do at once, but more importantly, to choose what needs to be done. There's endless tasks that you can do at all times of the day, and you need to be very good at prioritizing based on your goal for, your long-term vision and your goal for the year, narrowing that down, the goal for the month. And you need to be very sort of intentional about what you're doing every day to get there, because it's easy to do tasks that seem productive, but they don't actually help you in the long term. They're, I don't know, maybe chasing vanity metrics or something like that.
So this is the message for our younger generation budding entrepreneurs, that you have to choose between what looks urgent and what is actually important. Thank you so much, Sophia. So now, Sophia, your company is into uncharted territory. This was not done at this scale before. So what was the belief or what was the feedback that matters the most in keeping you guys going?
Well, when we had not gotten any investors yet, and we were still just bootstrapped with our prototype going around, we got a few articles written about the tool just by cold emailing the publishers. But 2 of those articles were written by the national regulators for welding in the US and Canada. And we ended up getting some big inbounds from that, like I mentioned. I think that was a huge push for us because we had been, waking up very early to cold call people. It's not the same when you cold call them. Maybe they're interested, but it's harder to tell. When people are inbounding you and asking to please use the tool, that's a big difference. One customer inbounded to us, and I told them that we couldn't serve them right now because they were doing a different process than we integrate with at the moment. And they wrote back and said, "Oh, please, we'll help you develop it. We really want to use it. You can use our facilities, our material, our employees will help you develop this new process integration. We really want to use it right now." So that seeing that kind of demand is huge.
Basically, the customer pull is the proof of concept.
Yes.
Excellent. So let's look into the future. 3 years from now, what will Sonibel look like?
Well, our expansion is largely sort of based on our technical roadmap. And there's 5 main types of welding that we're looking at. We're starting with 1. The database, the data collection, is the bottleneck to expanding across them. So really, in a few years, that's what the progress would look like, is that we have integration data sets built out across more than one type, and we can serve more and more of the market. We're choosing one to monopolize on at the moment, but growing past that will unlock the entire market, which is worth more than $9 billion of annual revenue globally.
Wow. So beyond revenue growth, what is it that Sonibel Instruments needs to really flourish?
Beyond revenue growth. Well, we just finished our first paid pilot with a customer in Alabama, and they're one of the biggest manufacturers in the US. So they have something like 300 locations across the country. One of them is in Canada. And their culture is the best I've ever seen at any shop we've gone to, or even visited at all. The way that they have thought about every aspect of the employee kind of workflow, the way they've thought about the salaries of each employee, the way that they take care of the families of each employee is so thoughtful and considerate. And I think that it's a great case study for how we will grow with our employees at Sonibel. So I think that, obviously revenue growth and getting more customers, more of the market is a huge success point. But if we have employees who love working at Sonibel and who love the vision and are excited to come to work every day, like almost all of them are at that customers, that would be a great sign of success.
Okay. So, one very important question. The purpose of this channel is to enlighten the new or the upcoming entrepreneurs. So, what is your message to those young boys and girls who will be watching this channel who are not being able to muster the courage to take the plunge?
Well, it took a long time to get to the point where I started Sonibel with my co-founders. Before this, I worked at 2 startups when they were very early. They had 7 employees each, and I learned a lot from the CEOs there. Then I started 2 in my last year of university, and one of them failed. We tried to get customers, we did build a prototype, but no one really wanted to use it. And so that was a huge learning point of building something that's a need to have versus a nice to have. And the second one I started ended up being successful on a small scale. We got some profit. I hired a few teammates. But that one I didn't see becoming a unicorn, really. So we shut that one down. So Sonibel only started after all of that learning. Really, if you're interested in something, I think starting anything, building a little app with Claude Code, not even an app, build a landing page on a website that people can pay $1 with to do something. Having that out, even if no one pays, you'll learn a lot. You don't have to tell anyone. Just do it privately.
So I hope you get the message. The message is very clear. Be in love with the solution that you provide. Don't be in love with your product. Most of the startups fail because of this, that they are not satisfying a demand. What they are trying to do is they are satisfying the founder's ego. I have made this, so this should be good. Don't go that way. And don't be afraid of failing. Unless you try, you'll never know. So, what is the legacy that you hope to build?
Well, I think when a lot of people think about legacy, it's very personal and they want to be known and famous or whatever. I don't really think about that a lot. I think about Sonibel being able to make a meaningful change in the industry. I see Sonibel as sort of my and my co-founder's duty to build now, because we've fallen into this opportunity. We're the right people to do it. We've seen the problem and we've started working on it. We would be failing our customers if we didn't continue building it. So Sonibel's growth is really the most important, and we're going to arrange the team in the best way to do that, whatever that means.
Perfect. So, now this is a question I generally ask senior entrepreneurs, but if you were to meet Sophia 5 years back, what would you ask her to do differently?
That's a good question. I think I would... Well, I worked at the 2 startups and then I launched 2 of my own. I think really what would have been better is to launch the 2 of my own even earlier. You'd learn faster, get the results, and then I maybe could have done more. Learned younger, learned faster. Really, that's it. Just try more. Try and fail. That's great. Make a list of your failures. You should be proud of them.
Thank you, Sophia. So, what do you hope that the young kids who are still studying, who have not yet started their entrepreneurial journey, what is your message for them? What do you want to tell them?
Well, there's a lot of noise around entrepreneurship. I think it's a very popular thing now. And in a way, that's good. More people are being encouraged to explore it as a real career option. But in another way, it attracts people who don't actually like being a founder. It's very unregulated, unstructured. At times, it can be lonely, very tiring. You're overworked a lot. For a lot of people, it's not the right career path. So really think about, do you want to be a founder or do you want to work at a startup? It's a big difference. So that's one thing. But another thing is back to the noise. There's so many conferences that you can attend. And I know people who fly, every other week they're flying to a new city for a conference. And I think it feels like you're an entrepreneur if you do that. But you should really go back to what you're trying to build and what your North Star metric is. And if going to all those conferences really achieves that, then great. But often it doesn't.
So I hope the message is clear to a younger audience. Don't lose your focus. What happens is there is so much of noise, there is so much of jargon, and there is peer pressure. Oh, I'm going to Los Angeles. Are you coming? Oh, I have a meeting in SFO. Don't you have one? Don't try to catch up with the meetings. Try to catch the real investors. So Sophia, now tell me that if you were to mentor, let us assume there's a seat next to us and there is somebody who is in their graduation, you want to mentor them. What is it that you will tell them to start with before their entrepreneurship journey? What are the most important skills that you think you like them to have?
I think being able to communicate clearly and sort of empathy, being able to feel if other people are interested in what you're saying or if they're bored. Because when you're talking to a customer or an investor or someone you're trying to learn from, it's very important that you can tailor what you're saying to them. Our story at Sonibel is very different if we're talking to a customer versus an investor. And even within our customers, it's very different depending on what they care about, which title we're talking about, which title we're talking to, things like that. So being able to communicate well from a high level and having that empathy, I think is hugely important. And you can learn that. You don't have to have a job to learn that. You can just do it with your friends even, practice it.
So I hope this message finds our younger viewers that you need to read the person that you're talking to, and you need to change the course of the conversation as per their interest so that you're able to fulfill their needs. Remember, every business is there to fulfill somebody's need. So realign what you're doing and go for it. Okay, we are towards the end of the interview now, Sophia. It has been such a pleasure talking to you. So tell me, what is your single biggest challenge now? You have the money, you have the product. So what is the single biggest challenge?
Well, our biggest challenge right now is a technical one. It's that we have this great demand, we have this great wait list. People are excited to test our product and to use it, integrate it into their workflows. They know that it can save them huge amounts of money and time. The difficulty is that for us to integrate with all of them, we need to do a rigorous data collection process. And that's what we're using this funding for, is to unbottleneck that process, fill it out a little bit more, and then make it much more fast and easy to integrate with our customers.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sophia. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Sophia, thank you so much for joining us today. And for our viewers, Sophia's story is a reminder that if you work hard, you believe, and you persist, you will make it to the top. She's been very candid with us. She told us about her failures because that is a part of every founder's journey. She didn't stop there. And that is why today we say her climbing the corporate ladder, rather the founder's ladder that she was meant to climb. And for the younger people watching this episode, let this be a signal to you. Look at your ambition. Don't look at your age. And find the right co-founders and go for it. Sophia, we thank you once again for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.